Hello, welcome to Lopez Power Lopez review of Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, there will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen this movie, don't watch this video. But my initial thoughts are, it's great. It really is great. Um, it's good for so many reasons. Uh, but I think the main reason is it captures the heart of the original trilogy while kind of doing its own thing. It's very different from the original trilogy, like in style, but it's familiar enough that it still captures the heart, and you feel that this fits in this universe. Um, Very, very good movie. It's got great characters. It's got humor. This is probably the funniest Star Wars movie since Empire Strikes Back. It's got great special effects. It's practical. It is CGI. It's still more CGI, I'd say, than there's practical, but it's more of a balance. It's just enough balance that it doesn't get overly tiring, and plus the CGI has the dirt and grit of practical effects. Now, this movie is really it's really an emotional story. That's what I'd call it. Not to say that the other movies weren't, but this one's more of an emotionally driven story, where the prequels were kind of not that much emotion. Um, this one is like totally an emotionally driven story, which I think audiences can really relate to. Um, so I'll go over the synopsis. So it's like 30 years after Return of the Jedi. Luke has totally disappeared. No one's seen him since, and he has a map that somehow they acquire a map that he made that shows where he's at, where he's located, what planet he's on, and it's put in this droid BB-8, and BB-8 belongs to Poe Dameron, and Poe Dameron's on a mission from Leia to pick up this hard drive that knows where Luke Skywalker is. Meanwhile, the First Order comes down and totally trashes the place looking for the hard drive. BB-8 escapes. Poe Dameron is captured. Max von Sydow, which is the person that I don't know what his character's name is, but he's played by Max von Sydow, old English actor, and he's the one that gives the hyperdrive to Poe, and Poe gives it to BB-8, and he gets destroyed by Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is the leader of the First Order. He's pretty much the new Darth Vader. The First Order is a new organization that came out of the ashes of the Empire, and somehow they've taken over the galaxy. Not totally, but they rule kind of with an iron fist, and Kylo Ren is obsessed with getting the plans for Luke Skywalker, so the whole movie is him trying to get it. Also, it falls into the hands of Rey, played by Daisy Ridley, and John Boyega, who plays Finn, who is a rogue stormtrooper who wants nothing part of the First Order. He was forced to watch innocent people die. He didn't want to kill anybody. He has a conscience. And these two go on an adventure to search Luke Skywalker. It's pretty much the search for Luke Skywalker. And there's more to it than that, but that's the main MacGuffin of it. The whole movie is them trying to search for Luke Skywalker while avoiding Kylo Ren, but bringing Han Solo on the way. Now, and also they have to destroy another Death Star. Now, a lot of people don't like the idea of Death Star 3. Now, I gotta admit, Death Star 3 does seem kind of like a weird idea. Like, don't you think the Empire would learn to, you know, to stop making big balls, otherwise they would get blown up. To stop making super weapons, otherwise the rebels or the resistance, as in this movie, will destroy it. I don't know. Um, but anyway, I'll tell you why it doesn't bother me. But first of all, stuff like that has always been a part of Star Wars. Even in the Phantom Menace, the the droid control area was kind of like that world's Death Star. And each trilogy has to have at least one Death Star, probably. It's a Star Wars tradition. Even though that one couldn't destroy planets, it still had kind of a similar design and similar feel to it. Um, but I'll tell you why this Death Star does not bother me. It's because it's done in a very different way. It's not the exact same as uh, Death Star 1 and 2. It's actually, okay, first of all, it's built inside of a planet, which is original. The whole system is a planet, which is actually much bigger than the other Death Stars. The other Death Stars were the size of moons. This one's the size of an entire planet. And what it does is it's not really a green beam of electricity, although I think that would be more convenient than what they do, but I like the new take on it, is that that planet's sun, it harnesses all the heat from that sun and launches the heat, destroying the planets. Now, this Death Star doesn't just destroy one planet, it can destroy like 5 planets at once. At least 3. I think there was 3 it destroyed in the movie. Um, and I like it because it actually has like a atmosphere, and it's like this planet, it's like Hoth. And it's a Death Star inside of a planet. And it harnesses the sun's energy. And the thing is, like, the outside does look a little bit like the Death Star, but the thing is, inside of the ships, it's not called Death Star 3, it's called Starkiller Base. Um, Inside, it doesn't really look like the Death Star in the other movies. It's a little different. It kind of looks more like where the other ones kind of look like a military base. This one kind of looks more like a hidden fortress, I'd say. This one is more of a hidden fortress look, I'd say. It's got like the rocky walls and the big opening gaps that you need to go across the bridge. It's more of a fortress. It's really weird. That's how I describe it. But I like it. It doesn't bother me because even though it's kind of the same idea, it's done in a completely new and different way. And I actually kind of liked how they did it. So I think that Death Star, that's why the Death Star in this new, I know it's called Starkiller Base, but that's why this didn't really bother me too much, because it was done in a very new and original idea, you know? Also, the other thing about this movie is the comedy. This is the funniest Star Wars movie ever. It really is. And kind of going back to the Death Star thing, it kind of becomes self-aware where like Han Solo is like, come on, these things we have to blow it up. These things always have a weakness. It was said in a funny tone, like in a way it kind of became a little self-aware at that point, just a little. It was a little funny. Also, I really like the kind of banter, uh, brother sister vibe. I know they're not really brother sister, but it kind of has like a sibling irritation, but kind of having fun at the same time vibe between Finn and Rey. I think the chemistry is so good. It's hilarious to watch them. They're like Han and Leia from Empire Strikes Back. Um, it's really funny to watch those two, like especially when they're flying the Falcon. It was just, I don't know, it was hilarious. It was like, especially Finn is really funny. Finn is like, because everyone wants to go back to Jakku. And it was like, okay, so Poe Dameron needed to go back. Ray needed to go back. And he's like, I'm not going back to Jakku. What's with it with people wanting to go back to Jakku? That Jakku is like a messed up place. It's really funny. The way he put it. Also, he's probably the most likable character in this movie, and his name is Poe Dameron. He's actually not in it that much, but I kind of wish he was, because he's very likable. Because he again, he has that comedy. He's really funny, but he kind of has the same charm that Han Solo had. Like, Poe Dameron is more of a, I'd say, more of a disciplined soldier version of Han Solo. He's like the best star pilot in the galaxy, and he's kind of a smart aleck, but he's kind of like kind of has that Han Solo charm vibe going to him. I'd say he's gonna be the new Han Solo of this trilogy. Now, in the movie, he's like, because he's captured by Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren's like, it's just an awkward silence between them, and he's like, okay, do I talk first? Do you talk first? Do I talk first? And it's like an interrogation, and it's like really, the way he does it is really funny. Um, Kylo Ren as a bad guy. I really like him. He's like Vader, but in a way he's something completely different. There's many similarities to him, but there's also a lot of differences. I'd say Kylo Ren has that like that authority that Darth Vader had. He has a lot of the like dark side issues that Vader had. But he is very he's very human. That's what I'd say. He's more human than Vader, and rightfully so, because Vader was like more machine than man. But he had more of a human voice, a human vibe to him. He had more human emotion. I mean that in a good way. I'm not saying that Vader was emotionless, but he was more like a robot type of thing. Very powerful robot, and Kylo Ren kind of feels more like like a a soldier who, like a really high-ranking soldier with emotional problems. He's more of an emotionally human character, and spoilers, he is the son of Han Solo. His real name is Ben Solo. He's the son of Han and Leia. Han and Leia broke up because their son turned the dark side. He was being trained by Luke. And it's kind of implied that he kind of did the same thing as his grandfather, hunting down the Jedi. Anakin, how he hunted down the Jedi. It's kind of implied that Luke had actually a small organization of Jedi. It's kind of implied. That's what I kind of got of it, because it says that he turned from the dark side and destroyed the last remnants of Luke's Jedi Order. Like, maybe Luke had like maybe 10 students and betrayed and murdered everyone except for Luke, and Luke went into hiding. Um, but Kylo Ren, he's like Bane, but more, he's not a wall. He's more an emotionally driven character. He's a really good actor, Adam Driver. He looks like Han and Leia mixed with a little bit of Anakin in him. Um, he's more of he's kind of like a confused teenager type of thing. He's, even though he's not a teenager, I'm not saying that he's like immature, but he's kind of like he's, you know what he's like? Kylo Ren is pretty much like Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender in the first season. In the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender, how Zuko is that emotionally honor-driven character. He was kind of, an emotional teenager, rebellious teenager, looking for his, honor, but he is emotionally driven, and he kind of has a high ranking over an army. Zuko from the first season of Avatar. That's kind of how I would compare Kylo Ren's character to. and it's like very much like that. And I think it's kind of a cool take in the Star Wars universe. I mean, we never really had a character like that in the Star Wars universe. I know in the prequels, but in the prequels, it wasn't the most emotionally driven characters, I don't think, even though I don't hate the prequels, as you know from the Phantom review. It's not the most emotionally driven characters. Um, this one is, though. Anything I love the character. The best part about this movie is the characters. Each character does something so memorable, makes you laugh. Even Kylo Ren has comedy. Everyone has comedy in this movie, and Kylo Ren has comedy. Like when he's upset that Finn and Rey are going, pretty much escaping the Empire, the First Order, left and right, really easy. And he's just like, slashing his room. Like there's computers everywhere, and he's like pulls out his lightsaber. It's like, ah! And the guy's just standing there who's giving the news right still because he doesn't want to get choked. And he's like, oh, and then he's like, it's like really funny, like his reaction. And also when Rey escapes, because Rey is like in this thing that ties down her arms and the First Order base and is being interrogated by Kylo Ren. And Kylo Ren wanders off to talk to, do some other business. I can't remember what. I think he was talking to Snoke. And he has a stormtrooper watch over Rey, and Rey, does a Jedi mind trick on him because Rey figures out she has Force powers. And over time, she's able to get the guy to do a Jedi mind trick. But when Kylo Ren sees that, to help her escape. And when Kylo Ren sees that she has escaped, he's slashing the room again, and like there's stormtroopers walking around the corner, and they see that the room is exploding, and they're like all scared, and they turn around and walk right behind. Right, the other way is really funny. So I really like the comedy. Even Kylo Ren has some funny parts. Is there any complaints about the movie? If I had a complaint, I would say Poe Dameron didn't have enough screen time. He was too likable of a character to have that short of a role in the movie. I mean, he has a big role, but I would say he's maybe in a quarter and a half of this movie, and I think he's just a little too likable to have that little screen time. He pretty much has as much screen time as someone like Wedge Antilles, and Wedge Antilles was more, the loyal, fighter pilot, but he was more of a side character, but he didn't, not to say he was unlikable, but this guy is like, it's pretty much like if you put Han Solo in the role of Wedge Antilles in the original trilogy. Like he's too good of a character to have that little of a role. I think what do you call it? Not the score. I would allow. The thing is, it's not that the stuff I have problems with this movie is what I would like to see more of. Like I would have liked to see more of I would like to see more of Kylo Ren. There's more of his backstory. I know there's mystery to him in the first movie, but I would like to see more about Kylo Ren, and also I would like to see more about how the First Order rose from the ashes of the Empire, how this new Republic really works. I wish, which one is, how the Resistance is in the New Republic, and how everyone's relationship, and the more, not like full-blown political, but like little snippets here and there. But I really like the CGI. Okay, this is the first Star Wars movie for two things. One, where the blasters actually have weight to them. When you watch it, the blasters like hit a stormtrooper, it actually has weight to it. Like you really feel it. Like that would hurt. Like in the other movies, like in the prequel and the original trilogy, when like a blaster hit something, it was just like a little firework came out and they fell down, and it was kind of like nothing. But in this movie, it's like the actual like weight to the impact. Same thing with like the ships when they fire at things. Like it actually has like bigger like weight to it. Like you impact that you feel to the everything it hits. Like when not only when the stormtroopers get hit with the blasters in the beginning of the movie and also throughout, it's like big. Like you feel it. Also, when Poe Dameron is blowing up the Starkiller base, he has to blow up like these little columns, and you just feel the weight of every one of them. It's not just a little explosion. You actually feel the like that would, if you were in that, you'd get crushed. And that's the first Star Wars movie to really have that feeling. It's also the first Star Wars movie where, well, Empire Strikes Back kind of did it too, but where the Empire or the First Order is quote unquote like threatening, like really threatening. And what I mean by that is not only are they really threatening, but you get a sense of this is a big operation, like a big government, the First Order, of like hundreds of troopers and all that. And maybe it's because, the new Death Star is an actual planet, not just, a little moon. I know the Death Star and the other movies were huge, but it's not the moon, it's a whole planet. This is the first time where, because in the other movies, you never really got the weight of the Empire. You never really got to, and don't get me wrong, I love the original trilogy, but you never really got the weight of the size of the Empire. In this movie, they're threatening, and they have a big like feel to them. Like you feel like there's billions of these guys, and you would be intimidated by how large they are. And because there's huge shots of hundreds, and also there's a shot in this movie in the snow, and it's in the trailer, where there's like hundreds of rows of different stormtroopers, and there's a little scene like that in Return of the Jedi, but it was only like a couple rows. But this is like big amounts of stormtroopers, and I think that kind of gives the First Order a vastness to it, which I think this one did actually better than the original. Let's get down to the sword fighting, because I find the sword fighting interesting. Because I was thinking to myself, are they going to do more of the original trilogy, just kind of tapping sabers? Or are they going to do more of the fast-paced choreography of the prequel trilogy? Because I a little bit prefer the fast-paced choreography, because I'm a martial artist. In my opinion, it just, I know some people like, well, this looks more real than, but like in the prequel trilogy, I thought the fighting looked pretty real, more like a battle. And I thought, I wonder what they're going to do here. And it's actually somewhere in between. Like, it's not quite as well choreographed as the prequels, but it's not slow paced like the originals. It's still very fast paced. It's just not quite as elegant moves. It's more rigid and more simple, but like more rigid, but it's still really fast paced. Like the prequels, but still like instead of like in the originals it was like more like and the prequels is like and this one it's more like it's a balance between like it's not like really choreographed, but it's really fast paced. And I love this story. Now, some people might complain about this, especially EU people, because like they did this with like Luke and Empire. Like how can only a person who trained for this amount of time be able to handle a Sith master like Darth Vader? Like how can Luke be able to handle Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back when he's only been training for a few days and Vader's a Sith master? Well, first of all, Vader wasn't going all out in Empire Strikes Back. He's just kind of toying with Skywalker. It's the same as like, in martial arts, if like a yellow or a blue belt sparred of like a fourth degree black belt. Fourth degree black belt's not, unless, I don't know, depends on the person, is not going to go all out on the person. He's kind of, going to dance around, kind of going to have control, more control over the opponent that is much less than him. And now, you might think, well, why didn't, Vader just, kill him? Vader didn't want him dead. That's why he's just kind of going easy on him. He's just kind of looking for see how he worked, like how strong he was. It was more of a test for Vader to see how strong he was. If he was a good opponent for the dark side, and he didn't want to kill him. When Luke gets his hand cut off, it's when he hits Vader in the shoulder, and that's when the fight becomes more real. Vader's not just toying around; he actually gets pissed off when he gets hit in the shoulder. So that's when it gets really fast paced and cuts his hand off. That's when Vader goes out of control. So in my opinion, that makes perfect sense. And this movie, some might complain like, oh, how can Finn handle Kylo Ren, who's trained for gears and is a dark sider, and he doesn't even have the Force, and he's like, and how could Rey, who's never even practiced sword fighting or the Force, be able to handle Kylo Ren in a fight? With Finn, I'll tell you why. Finn was more of a he knew how to fight, I think, but I think Kylo Ren was just kind of toying around with Finn. And also Kylo Ren, the thing is, he wasn't fighting his best, because he had emotional drama going through his head. So he's not going to be fighting in his prime. He's going to be swinging around because he has an emotional, in his head, emotional trauma in his head, because he just killed his father. Spoilers. I'll talk about that later. And so I can kind of see that making sense, how Finn would be able to handle that. Rey especially, I could tell you why Rey. Because Kylo Ren, I got the feeling that Kylo Ren isn't a master. I think Kylo Ren could possibly just be an apprentice, like Padawan level Sith. He's just, a really high rank in the First Order, but I think he's just like Padawan. Who knows how long he trained for Luke? Maybe Luke only trained him for a couple weeks. And so Kylo Ren's experience with lightsabers, is only very vivid. So that's why I think it makes sense for Rey, because Rey, is really good with the staff. She's Force sensitive. She beats up a couple thugs in Jakku. I think she definitely should be able to beat him, because number one, like I said, Kylo Ren has that emotional trauma in his head. He's not quite a Sith Knight. I think he could be even like an apprentice. And he's more of he's kind of a newbie at this. And so he's inexperienced. So I think, and also Rey is inexperienced too. But she has fighting to the Force, but not inexperienced to fighting. So when she gets the Force, she becomes 10 times more powerful with the fighting. And so that's why in Kylo Ren, is just more of he has that emotional trauma, like I said, but he's more of an apprentice at it. So that's why, and also, she's stronger in the Force than he is. She's able to stop his mind melts. It's pretty much a Vulcan mind melt, but with the Force. And so I think she was a little stronger. So in my opinion, it does make sense for her to be able to handle Kylo Ren. Now, this fight, man, is very emotional. It's like I said, it's not like really well choreographed. It's not like pristine choreographed, I'd say, but it's not a terrible choreographed, but it's more of a rigid, primitive style, more violent, I'd say. It's more of a violent style than a pretty. It doesn't really look pretty. but it's fast paced like the prequels, but it's not pretty like the prequels fighting. It's more it's fast paced like pss, 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 but it's not tapping swords like the original trilogy. Um, it's very interesting because this guy kind of has a lot of parallels to Anakin. He says traitor, kind of like how Anakin says traitor to Obi-Wan and Revenge of the Sith. Also, he gets a scar on his head from fighting Rey. His lightsaber gets damaged, so I'm pretty sure Kylo Ren is going to get a new lightsaber in the next Star Wars movie. Be interesting to see what it is. Um, and, I loved that fight because it was a total emotionally driven fight. I wasn't just there to have a sword fight. I was there just to have an emotionally driven sword fight. Kind of like, it reminded me a lot of the fight in Return of the Jedi, pretty much. And when, Luke just snaps and just goes all out on Vader. It's pretty much like with Rey, because Rey's upset about, Finn getting injured and Han Solo dying. That she snaps, and it's very much like Luke in that movie where she just goes all out on Kylo Ren. Um, so I love the fight because it's a very emotionally driven fight. Oh, I love seeing the Millennium Falcon on the big screen. Very cool when they pan the camera. It's like, oh, that's a hunk of junk. Let's not get this one. You don't know what they're talking about. One ship blows up, and they turn. It's like, okay, hunk of junk, and it's the Millennium Falcon. It was like, oh my god, that's so awesome. Yeah, there's another little complaint I have. The Millennium Falcon looks all great. The only thing I think is the cockpit. For some reason, doesn't have. It's maybe like the new lighting, but it doesn't really have the classic feel of the Millennium Falcon. It feels more. Doesn't really feel like the original Millennium Falcon, whereas everything else on the Millennium Falcon does, except for the cockpit. I forgot the dice was supposed to be hanging down. I forgot to be looking out for that. From A New Hope. And I like the story, Han Solo went back to smuggling, but he got his ship stolen, which that guy got stolen, which landed in Jakku, and he gets the Falcon back, so it's cool. So Han Solo dying. Man, oh man, oh man. I like the way they killed him off. I really do. Han Solo is pretty much the Obi-Wan figure of this story. I'm pretty sure Luke is going to be the Yoda figure, but Han Solo is kind of the Obi-Wan figure in this movie, man. He helped him out. He was very important to the story. He pretty much helped them get the droid across the galaxy, the map, and pretty much help them destroy the Death Star. He was pretty much the main driving force of this movie when he came in. He of course, Ben Solo, which is Kylo Ren, they confront each other in like this long bridge that's over like this big like core thingy, and Kylo Ren is like, I'm not your son anymore. I need to. I'm struggling with the light side. He's struggling. He's struggling not to be good. He's a bad guy, but he's struggling from turning to the light side. But I thought that was an interesting twist because most of the time we see in Star Wars movie a light side struggling more with the dark side. We never really seen a dark side struggle with the light side. I mean, we did a little bit with Darth Vader and at the end of Jedi with Palpatine snapping him. But it was like really more drawn out in this movie. Of course, the reason people's like, well, why would he confront Kylo Ren? He would know he would die and stuff like that. But I tell you the reason why. Because he made a promise, well, he didn't say anything, but later it's like, promise me you'll try to bring our son back with him. Promise me you'll try to make him good again. So that was his only chance of doing what his wife said to do. I think they're still married, they're just separated, but that was the only thing his wife requested to help him out because he still has good in him, like Anakin. And so, but he dies. See, it's interesting how they did the lighting, because when he's struggling with the light side, there's a big light shining on him from the sun. But when the sun is all drained from the Death Star, Starkiller Base, that's when he turns, metaphorically, he goes back to the dark side, stabs Han Solo. Han Solo is out for the count. He touches Kylo Ren's face, pretty much showing that he still loves him. No matter what. And he falls to his, and down this little shaft. And at the end of Han Solo, Chewbacca yells, like, "Whoa!" And everyone's watching, like, the whole base. It's like in this big circular area. And, Rey's upset. That's what helps her, makes her snap against Kylo Ren, like I just said. And Han Solo is gone forever. Never to return. But I have an interesting theory. I don't think they'll go this route, because Harrison Ford wants it to be this way. And it's a kind of a sad, good illusion of Han Solo just disappearing last time we'll ever see him. But I think they might pull Lord of the Rings Return of the Two Towers on us. Because remember in Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf fought the Balrog, he fell down into the darkness, similar to how Han Solo fell down. And he's off screen. You don't see his body officially like that. So could they pull a big surprise of having Han Solo live? Maybe. That would be, I don't think they'll do it, but that would be an interesting twist. I wouldn't see that. Well, I just now saw that coming, but maybe in a couple years I'll forget this and didn't see it coming. I think a lot of people won't see that coming. But they kind of did Han Solo's death was very similar to Gandalf's death and Fellowship of the Ring. I know it's supposed to mirror Obi-Wan's death, but Gandalf's death was similar to Obi-Wan's death, and now Han Solo's death was similar to Gandalf's death. He pretty much dies the same way he dies. He plays the sad music, everyone's crying, they have to run out, otherwise they'll get shot. It's pretty much Gandalf's death. And not to say that's bad, I thought it was good. So that's all great, but my favorite, and the fight is great, and they get separated because they blow up Starkiller Base. Now, Starkiller Base, when they blow it up, doesn't blow up like right away. It takes a while because it's a planet. It's not just gonna go. It's gonna take a while for the Earth to shake and crumble and make gaps. And so after the sword fight, they're separated. Kylo Ren lives. He just has a big gash on his face now. They drive off in the Falcon while the planet just crumbles inside and goes. Now I'll talk about my favorite scene in the movie is the ending. The ending scene just gave me goosebumps. It made me want to see more. It made me feel awesome. This made me my favorite movie of this year. It was Creed, but I think this one was a little funner and a little more. Creed was probably more of an objectively better movie, but this is a funner movie, a more nostalgic, character-driven movie that's really fun. It's a funner movie. It's just such a fun movie. And the last shot, R2-D2 is pretty much like in a coma, and the BB-8 has the map, but there's a big chunk of it missing that only R2-D2 has, and so R2-D2 awakes from his little coma magically, and he shows where the map is, and BB-8 sticks in his portion of the map, completing the map, finding out where Luke Skywalker is, and when she finds out, he's in this watery planet, but there's little islands, and it's supposed to be the first Jedi temple. He's hiding in the first Jedi temple. She's climbing big mountains. It kind of reminds me of Kill Bill 2 when the lady was climbing up the big steps. She climbs up big steps up the mountains. Rey does. And there is a cloaked figure just standing there. And he just turns around. And I just got goosebumps oh my god, it's Mark Hamill. He turns around and it's Mark Hamill. He has the beard, but he doesn't look like old. He doesn't look like poop. He still looks really good in this movie. He has the Jedi mullet. I was like, yes, the Jedi mullet that Anakin and Obi-Wan had. He just never cut it, probably. He was just too lazy. And he had the beard, and she hands him the lightsaber, and he has like a little tear in his eyes, and then the whole movie's just circling around them, and then he's gonna train her, and then he says nothing, but then it closes and says, directed by J.J. Abrams. And it was so awesome. It made me clap. I love that. That was the best ending in all of Star Wars history. Um, it was a little weird though not seeing, because I watched all the movies forever, my whole life, and I've always been used to seeing George Lucas, Irving Kushner, and Richard Marquand, but I'm not used to seeing J.J. Abrams yet. But when I first saw J.J. Abrams, like, I'm not used to that, but it looks awesome. But I was expecting like George Lucas or Irving Kushner to pop up. It's very similar to Empire Strikes Back, even more so than A New Hope. A lot of people say, oh, it's New Hope all over again. I don't think so. I think in my opinion, it's more of Empire Strikes Back in this movie. Like with the ending and what happens to Han Solo leaving on such a awesome note, and I don't know. Which I think is a great thing. I love Star Wars: The Force Awakens. It's a great movie, great characters, great comedy, great action. Feel the weight of the action. I give this movie a 10 out of 10, A plus, 4 out of 4 stars. Um, I'd say it's as good as Empire. My favorite Star Wars movie is A New Hope, and no, probably Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time, and I'd say it's as good as A New Hope. Uh, I don't know. I have to see it again. It might be as good as Empire. It really is. I think anyway. It's my opinion. It might be almost as good as Empire Strikes Back, if not a little better. I have to see it a couple more times. But I think I love this movie. I love the character of Rey. It's interesting because she's waiting for her family, and I don't think she might be a Skywalker or Solo. I don't think so. I think she's just a Force sensitive, but she's an awesome character. I love Finn. I love how he gets his name. He's like my name is FF. It's his conversation between him and Poe Dameron in the X-Wing. It's like, what's your name? He's like, because stormtroopers have encryption codes, so they don't have real names. And he's like, my name is FINN 22. He's like, FIN. I'll just call you Finn. Finn, I like that name. He's like, yeah, Finn is great. And it's just like, so likable. See, the thing about this movie, not only is, same thing with the original trilogy did this. Not only are these characters interesting, but they're likable. See, the thing about the prequel trilogy is it's not that those characters weren't interesting. It's just that they weren't as likable as like Han Solo or Princess Leia, or these guys are. Finn, Rey, Poe Dameron, very much likable. And I love seeing Harrison Ford back. He played the role justice. He had a lot to do. He really served the story. Great performance. Went out on a bang. He was pretty much like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. Some people's like, oh, he died the same way Darth Maul did, getting stabbed and then falling down. He did too, but again, when the character gets stabbed and just falls down into a darkness, notice how they usually live. According to the Clone Wars, Darth Maul lived, came back as a spider guy. According to Lord of the Rings, Gandalf lived. Came back as Gandalf the White. So, could Han Solo come back? I don't think so. I don't think they are. But I would be interested to see if they did do it. Because that would be interesting. But I don't think they is. But Han Solo went out on a bang. Great. He just was great. Harrison Ford was great. Chewbacca was great. Peter Mayhew was great. Everyone was great. Even Warwick Davis's character was great. I mean, it's just very likable characters. Good to see Leia again. Great movie. Like I said, for if you love Star Wars, you love this movie. If you love sci-fi movies, you love this movie. I give it about a 4 out of 4, 10 out of 10, A plus. So see you next review. Um, Probably my favorite movie of this year because it was the most fun and the most likable and it just made me clap. And movies don't usually make me teary-eyed. Creed made me teary-eyed, but the one scene that made me teary-eyed in this movie is not when Han Solo died. That made me a little teary-eyed, actually, but the scene that made me teary-eyed is the opening crawl. When I was reading that opening crawl, I was actually getting a little teary-eyed. So yeah, great movie. So see you next review. I don't know. I usually don't review new released movies, but since it's Star Wars, it had to be done. So yeah, see you next review. Take care. God bless. See you next time.